very happy Guru Purnima, start of Guru Purnima. We have most of the celebrations. So today we are actually filled with gratitude to Swami to kick off this speaker series at our center. So we're calling it the Sai frequency. Okay. Why is this name? Because if you think of a radio, a radio picks up a clear signal only when it is tuned to the right frequency. Right? So this is Swami's loving. His teachings are always there, but it is on us to tune into that teaching, and that's the concept behind the logo. And today we will go over the rest of the logo over the time. But today we are introducing the episode 1 of the speaker series, and really offering this to Swami on this sacred occasion. And today we have, it's actually a great blessing that we have Dr. Conjeevaram with us today, who will be our very first guest for this speaker series. So Dr. And I'll just share his brief bio. Actually not brief, but I will share it. It's important. So Dr. Sai Conjeevaram has been actively involved in the SSSIO International Organization for the last 3 decades. 3 decades is 30 years. Yeah. He currently serves as the co-chairman of the SSSIO Humanitarian Relief Committee. He is also the Zone 1 Medical Director. So Zone 1 involves USA, Canada, West Indies. And he's also the member of the SSSIO International Medical Committee. And a lot of, I think his roles are not listed here, like regional president, all that is now like somewhere else. Center roles, regional roles. But currently he's also, what is something that I can relate to personally is also the National YA Advisor, the National Young Adult Advisor. So personally, when I was serving in the National Young Adult team, he was actually my advisor. So I'm so grateful that he happens to be here and kick off the series. Dr. Hari has coordinated multiple local and international medical camps, including in the USA, Prasanthi Nilayam, Guyana, Kazakhstan, Africa, along with several disaster relief missions in USA, Sri Lanka, Haiti, Philippines, and Ecuador. So all over the world, essentially. And at the professional level, Dr. Hari is a tenured professor of medicine in the division of Gastroenterology, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. In addition to the patient care, he has been actively involved in clinical research and education in USA and globally. He has won numerous local, regional, and national awards for education, mentoring, humanism, and community service, and some of which include Commendation Medal for Exemplary Performance of Duty from the US President Bill Clinton, Dean's Award for Community Service, Leonard to Humanism in Medicine Award, Distinguished Lifetime Educator Award from the American Gastroenterological Association. So with that, please join me in welcoming Dr. Sai Conjeevaram.
My humble pronounce the divine our Lord's feet. Sairam, sisters and brothers and youngsters and young adults, it's such an honor to be here today. Just on this very special occasion of a Guru Purnima. One thing I always say is that, everyone has opportunities to speak, and it's nothing special about it, at least for me. Because, any one of us in this room can give a talk, their own passion, their experiences about Swami. Today, it just happens to be me sharing in my own life's journey with him being the my path. Swami has always been, I address him as father more than anything else. To me, he's been my father for a long time, and I'll talk about that in a second. My guru, my God, my all. And today's a Guru Purnima again. I'm not going to talk about the highlights of being a guru. Swami is the highest guru, and he has taught us so many things. Even talking about what he has told us doesn't do justice, because all of us know, I think to me, at least, following his teachings is the pivotal aspect, at least in my life, having that implicit faith, and surrendering everything to him. And that's how, I've been for a long time. And I think from that perspective, I've always kept things very simple in my life. To me, I made a decision a long time ago that this is the path and there's no going back. And there's no swaying as well. It's just being in that path. Of course, we all kind of digress a bit for different reasons. But knowing that, and nobody influencing us, that's something to me is very, very important. A lot of times we get influenced by others, and it could be our own family members, our own side brothers and sisters, telling us what to do. But I think each one of us has that responsibility to really look in ourselves and see what is good for me from how Swami has taught me, and really follow that more than anything else. It's not about not doing what others tell us. It's about what you think is the right thing for you, and having Swami as our guide. Again, always following the heart. That's something I've always done, at least when I think about service projects. It's about something that yearning, and I just keep kind of going. A good example is that, I've been involved in so many medical camps across the globe. And, I work in a university. For us, you need to get permission, at least 3 months in advance. Sometimes these things come up very quickly. So one thing which has really worked for me, hopefully it will continue to work. I usually buy my tickets first and then worry about what comes, how am I going to get the permission, even if it's that. It always works out somehow. And I think it's a good example, at least for me, with regards to thinking about, what do I want to do? How do I want to serve? And kind of being in that path, and Swami takes care of things. And at the end of the day, it's, Swami has repeated it, no matter which quote the Guru talks about, there's always that aspect of love. And I think that's a fundamental of everything that we do in our lives, and it has to be unbiased and unconditional. And sometimes I think, at least for me, I've made it intentional to kind of concentrate on that, on every single person that I see, whether it's, I deal with patients being a doctor. And patients come with a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, a lot of something, there are situations where, but how do you kind of stay humble? How do you kind of stay grounded in that situations, and really think of Swami, and really, be honest and truthful about it to our patients? I think that has really helped me a lot, actually. And I'll talk about how I've seen so much transformation in my own patients based on how I'm conducting myself. It really comes back to us, how we conduct ourselves in our lives, which really has a humongous transformation, not only for us, but people that we are working with. Next slide. When you think about surrender, this is something I've really taken heart to recently, is that, we always, whether it's come to a bhajan like today, or go to work, or go to a friend's house, or go to the market, we see people, we study them for a while, and at some point we decide, is this going to be my friend? Is this someone I'm going to trust? Is this someone that I want to be involved with in some way or the other? So it takes a while for us to get that trust in them, or love them, or whatever the emotion is. But I've completely flipped that around, based on Swami's teaching about, that you got to see God in everyone. There's God in everyone. That's it. There is no thought about it. There's no discussion about it. He has said it. That's the truth. So I kind of completely flipped that, my own interactions with people, the first thing whenever I see anyone is I think there's God in them. That's how I start my own conversation or my own thought process with anyone that I see these days, and that everything comes after that. And to me, it's really helped me a lot. So that it kind of takes away all the biases and the judgments. That doesn't mean that someone is not doing a good thing or a bad thing. That comes later. But Swami always is right. Everyone, no matter how they look, what they are doing, there's still divine in them. And I think kind of going to that source, that thought, to me, has really helped me in my own life these days. Thanks a lot. And one of the things is that, we take, Swami has given so many opportunities to serve. I think of it as a real lifetime blessing, starting from being a teenager. And all this really came about if I think about even before I knew Swami, I always think about my father. He was my kind of guru. I used to love him so much. To me, he was everything. I used to just adore him. He was a doctor. He used to call people literally off the streets and give things to them, take care of them. And, when I was very young, not even a teenager at that time, I used to see this. I used to think it was really odd, him giving things that I thought were mine to people on the streets. That didn't connect with me earlier on. But later on, I really realized the importance of that. I lost my father when I was very young. And since then, somewhere along the way, even when my father was still alive, I used to see Swami's photos, and I think he used to go to party, but I didn't know much about it. But that natural evolution of Swami becoming my own father, and that's why I always address him as father, actually, has evolved over time. And the opportunities that he has given all of us, is such a blessing that we shouldn't take for granted. And Swami says, no joy can equal the joy of serving others. And when you serve man, it leads to the discovery of man as God. And I think, and it's not that I see God in everyone. Now I'm intentionally doing it. But before that, I used to, of course, go to service and do a lot of things. I didn't necessarily recognize the divine all the time. But Swami talks about this. And one day in the interview with doctors and others, Swami was going, he was here. I was sitting somewhere in the middle taking notes. And Swami was going for each person in the interview room, asking them, what do you want? And I knew exactly what I wanted to ask him. I was pretty confident everyone was going to get a turn the way he was going. And then, kind of this Maya sets in, right? Because one of the brothers asked for a ring, and he gave a ring. I'm thinking, God, maybe I should ask for a ring. But immediately I kind of swayed back and said, no, I have a question. This is exactly what I'm going to ask. So he looks at me and said, what do you want? And I said, Swami, I want to serve you for the rest of my life, very grandiose. And he said, why? Every time you have to be careful, right? When you say, tell him something, you'll always ask a question. And I said, it makes me so happy about Swami. And he said, he said at that time, he said, it's not happiness. He said, happiness is external. What you're experiencing, he said, is joy. He said, joy comes from within. It was such a beautiful reply. I can never forget that. Anytime I see the word joy, I think of Swami in that context. So always joy that that from within. So next slide. And when we follow our heart, Swami always, at least the way I read his teachings, encourage us to kind of follow our hearts, what our hearts tells us, and he's always there to kind of guide us from that perspective. And one thing I've learned over the years is that you get so much out of it when you do something, and it may not be what you give. It could be something very different, and you need to kind of acknowledge that. So this was several years ago. There was this international physician conference in Puttaparthi. I was not part of the team, not part of the organizing team or anything like that. I just went But when I went there, I'm like, I got to do something. I just have to do something. And so I go to this team of brothers who are doing all the registration. I said, hey, can I help? They said, of course you can help. So I was very involved, and then I got more and more involved in the entire conference. And on the last day, Swami comes and he gave these mementos to 9 people. And I was one of the 9. So here, it was such an amazing lesson to me because, here I went there just to be part of something. I followed my heart, what I wanted to do, and I worked on that. And that's all I did. I wasn't expecting absolutely nothing from that. And the reward you get was, just amazing. Swami, called each one of the 9 people that were picked, and it was so sweet. We're talking about Guru Purnima, Guru, the teacher. Everything that we learn in our life that we experience is always a lesson to be learned, at least for me. And I think it's very important for us to be very open to that. What exactly am I learning at this instance from the gathering? So in that context, though Lakshman was talking about me being his advisor, for me, I've learned so much from Lakshman. And I think, to me, we can learn from everyone. I can learn a lot from these 2 kids. I've been with them for the last 2 days, Mitra and Vishwa. And you learn a lot from each other. It doesn't matter what the age is. Age, position gives people a perspective, but that has nothing to do with what we learn from each other. And I think that's very important, at least for me, to kind of keep that in mind. It really grounds you, keeps me humble, and you learn a lot. You grow from learning from each other. And that other could be a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. And I think it's very important for all of us to understand. Now, the topic of this meeting, at least, introduction of this meeting, is Swami, the Guru, showing us the light. And I think in that context, he's giving us so many opportunities, sometimes very simple things. Sometimes we look for the obvious. And how do we kind of, be aware or recognize anything which, if someone asks for help, just do it. I think that's been my philosophy. If I'm able to do it, I just do it. I don't think about, am I the right person to help or can I help? That's all secondary to me, at least. I'm able to help, I help. It doesn't matter. And I think that really creates such an important bond between the person asking you for that help and you. And I think that's really what they appreciate. People appreciate from us. And I think, to me, at least, it's my duty, it's our duty to reflect the light, that light he's giving us in everything that we do. Everything that we do has to be a reflection of what he's teaching us, what we are learning, what we are reading about, what we love so much when we read his messages. You got to put that in practice. That's a reflection I'm talking about. And at some level, I think this is my favorite quote. I think I wrote it myself. I can't remember actually now, but this is something I've been saying for a long time. Inspire and be inspired. And I think it's very important for all of us to feel that we are in a position to inspire others, not in an egoistic way, but we can all inspire others by how we reflect Swami's message, how we do things in our lives, and become inspired as well, as I was mentioning, from anyone. And what that translates to, at least in my life, has been transformation from within. One day I was speaking at a center and someone got up and asked me, what is the biggest thing that happened in your life, being with Swami? And then, for the next half an hour, I talked about this miracles and all that. Then I realized, that was really not the biggest thing in my life. A lot of miracles have happened, but to me, that transformation, this personal experience I had in Puttaparthi, I don't have time to talk about this today, but this personal experience I had with in Puttaparthi with a patient for a period of 20 hours that completely transformed how I view myself and also the connection I've had with Swami. A lot of times, people are trying to, help you recognize Swami or, help you with this or that. At the end of the day, it's all about you and Swami, right? It's about me and Swami, and no one can change that. No one can change that. No one can alter that either. I still remember one day, Dr. Goldstein, Dr. Reddy, who most of you know, when I was in Puttaparthi for 3 months, I was doing a lot of work in the hospital. They went and, they started talking about me to Swami. But Swami already knows that, right? And Swami made a comment, in Telugu, "Baga dabbalu vartunnaru," right? You're beating a lot of drums. So he doesn't need someone to tell him that, right? He knows that. So I think that's important, and we also have this power of transformation of others. Again, not in an egoistic way, just by, being who we are. And I'll share a couple of examples. This is where, again, being a doctor. One day my nurse, I'm a liver doctor, so these are very, very sick patients, very frustrated, talking about life and death with a lot of them. So they get angry, and so the first person they talk to is a nurse, not me. So they kind of pour everything on the nurses, yell at them, they're angry. But by the time they come, they're already kind of a bit calm, actually. So my nurse, one day comes, my email is omsairam@umish.tv. That's a miracle itself, because you can never use other than your last name as an email, but that's what happened when I went to University of Michigan. So she came and told me one day, she said, I get so frustrated when these patients are yelling at me and all that. Then she said one day, this is what I started doing. She said, I just raised my hands and I started saying Om Sai Ram. And she has no idea what Om Sai Ram means and what Sai Baba. But she says, look, you are so calm. And for her, Om Sai Ram in my email, because I'm constantly emailing her, right? She's my nurse, so constantly emailing about patients. She said, I connected Om Sai Ram with you. You're so calm. So there's something to this thread. So she said, every time I say Om Sai Ram, I feel calm. That's the power, I think, and that is the power of the name. That's the power of us being who we are, how we conduct ourselves. I think that's just transformation. Here, someone is being influenced by it, and actually, they're being helped by it. Again, there's no ego involved here at all. We're just being ourselves. And again, I can give a lot of examples, but recently, again, with another patient, before I went to see the patient, the nurse comes to me, you better be careful, Mr. So-and-so. He is so angry. I got the brunt of it, but he's still so angry with the whole system, people be yelling at you. So I go in, I always play innocent when I walk in. Just listening to him, listening, acknowledging. The one thing I found in life is that when people are trying to fault with you or yelling at you, usually it's patients, because again, not intentional, I think, is that at some level you have to acknowledge the very fact that we gave a perception that you have done something wrong that affected them. That means you did something, you might think that was a good thing, but they interpret it in a way. What does that mean? In that space, you gave them a perception of something not right. I think we have to acknowledge that. It's not about me being good, they being bad, or vice versa. We gave that perception, acknowledge that perception. So, I acknowledge, sorry, try to explain everything. And then I was fine, he was fine, he was calm, And I don't know what made me, I was walking out, I turned back to him. I don't know what made me do it. I just went and gave him a hug, and he gave me a hug back. And his wife was sitting in the room. She was in shock. She says, he has never, ever hugged anybody in his life before. So to me, that was a powerful, conversation of transformation by just being us, really kind of following, Swami's message of, being humble about, doesn't matter what the situation is. This was another, I just want to briefly, not digress, but again, lessons learned from our guru, right? One thing I've learned being in the organization, one thing about the organization, right? To me, the organization is, we always think of us as a community, as a Sai center, at work, we are part of an organization. So we always depend on a community or an organization to help us bring along in our paths or whatever it is, right? And to me, the SSIO is something very similar. There is no difference. SSIO has given us that support, all the brothers and sisters, the Sai families, that we work together, that we can do so many things in the community. That's how I always looked at the organization. But when the Haiti earthquake happened, what it really taught me is that as an organization, as a community of people, how much we can do when we actually collaborate with others, with other parties. Again, not digressing from the guidelines Swami has set forth, not digressing from how we conduct ourselves. We still remain the same, but there's a lot of opportunities to work for others. So this was an amazing project for an entire year that I was involved in. We used to send teams every year from the U.S. and Central and South America. And we also partnered with an organization called DRI, Direct Relief International. They give a lot of supplies, United Nations, and USA, no longer, but at that time, USA was very, and then next. So what happened was, we had, at those days, we can't land directly in Haiti. We had to land in Dominican Republic. And then, so we reached around 10 o'clock or something at night. We were very tired, but we had to take the bus at 3 a.m. to go to Haiti. So we got up at 2, get to the U.S. Embassy, and then we were 9 of us brothers, Sai brothers, and 2 random guys in a 66-seater bus, right? And the driver is there, and he wouldn't let us in. He said, I gotta confirm that you're on the list. And then he's waiting, an hour goes by. The guy who's supposed to have that list, right, never turns up. An hour goes by, and so finally he says, hey, look, what are you doing? You haven't come yet, because he needs to drive 6 hours into Port-au-Prince, and he has to return back the same day. And the guy says, you're waking me up. Today's my day off. I'm not coming. And he said, I have these people waiting. Just let them in. So we get into the bus, and then we get to the border of the city. And the border of the city, there's this entourage of police and everyone, security. They stop the bus, and these guys get into the bus, and they say, who is your leader? And I was not the leader. I was just one of the 9 members, actually. And everyone was really tired, and everyone points their finger at me. So, these are the times when you're nervous, but you gotta be confident as well. So I go there, I march to the front, and the first thing the guy asked me is, who asked you to get into this bus? He's looking for a name, to validate. And I could not have, in that fear, could not remember a single name of any of the brothers at Dominican Republic. I just shouted out Miguel, So, and he thought for a minute, and he said, oh, okay, you can go. Now again, so we go all the way to Port-au-Prince. We go to the UN, United Nations. So here, I'm so confident now. We wanted the same bus back, because all the brothers were coming back in a week, and I was staying back for longer, actually. So I wanted to make sure they get back, now that I'm the leader. So I go there, I tell them, hey, we came in this bus, we want the ride back, we want to reserve their, I gave them the dates and all that. And the guy's looking at me, he's like, clueless, right? He comes back after half an hour, and then he goes back again, comes back after half an hour, and he says, I have no idea who you are. Your names are not here. I don't care who you are. You're never coming back in this bus. So to me, it was Swami's leader. He kind of created this whole play, right? Making sure that the guy never woke up, because we were probably not on that list the guy had. So again, it's one of those things. I think we have to have that faith. And a lot of times people say, "Oh, is this by chance?" Nothing is by chance at all. Next stuff. And I always like to talk about the youth when I give talks, and the power of the youth. I think I don't think any of us underestimates, but we should never, ever, ever underestimate the power of the youth. I think not only just the energy and the thoughtfulness that they bring, but the creativity and how much they actually do. They really empower the youth of Port-au-Prince and work with the children in the orphanages and all that as we were doing our medical work. Actually, we had adopted 2 churches for a full year next week. When Swami talks about love, and to me, whenever we reflect love in how we conduct ourselves, we are really reflecting the divine in those actions. And this was a very powerful experience. So one day, a Sunday, despite all that trouble, they were still having, going to churches. So the 2 doctors I was working with said, Dr. Hari, you want to come to church for us today? I said, of course. So we go there. I see quite a few priests from other parts of Port-au-Prince, from other churches. So as a program was going on, each priest was giving a short talk, and going on and on and on. And finally, every priest that I saw in that crowd, was done. And the main priest from the orphanage, from church, gets up and says, today we have a guest speaker who's going to give us the sermon for today, for this Sunday. So I'm looking at every corner, I've noticed every priest has already spoken. Now why is someone else getting up to the same priest, Then he introduces my name. So here I am, and I'm not a Christian by birth. I've been kind of visiting churches a few times, but I'm in no position to give a sermon. So here I am in front of all these hundreds of people giving a sermon in the church that day. You wouldn't believe it. I was so nervous. Every Swami's quote that I can think of, that was my sermon for the next 20 minutes. Lowell, Servo, in the meantime, in between, I was trying to encourage them, to empower them. Hey, I know you're going through difficulty, but still got to serve, And every 5 minutes, they're all getting up as a crowd and I'm saying, Hallelujah. So that was literally my entire sermon. But what that experience taught me was that, see, when you do your work, when you actually reflect that love, they saw something very special. They thought that I could give the sermon. They knew I was a doctor. I'm sure they knew I was not a Christian, but it didn't matter to them. And I think that's important for us to kind of keep that in mind, take away that, that consciousness of whatever you want to think about what I do, just do it. And I think it was a very powerful experience that day to me that, when we are what we are, how we do, people recognize that divine in us. Otherwise, why would they ask me to do the sermon, right? They could have asked me to give a talk, but specifically a sermon. So, we've been involved in a lot of medical camps in Puttaparthi, and something Swami has always taught us throughout was that you got to see God in everyone, because you never know any patient, right? It's being very mindful. People always ask, today, Lakshman was asking, how do you keep that calm, when you're exhausted, frustrated, or whatever the situation is, when you're having so many patients, they're angry with you. But really being very mindful of, who you are, that Swami is in each one of them. If you kind of go back to that root teaching, right? The divine is in each one of us. That's the first thing you think about. All that, everything else becomes secondary. So, seeing God in everyone, we used to be very conscious about every person who was coming in, that we need to serve so much love. It doesn't matter what we're giving them. That's important, because a lot of times, at least patients or anyone, right, in our own families, side families, people just want us to listen to them. People want that ear, that just sitting with them. It's such an important thing for them. There's so much in this country, especially that loneliness. I think we need to cater to that and serve that. One day, Swami always used to come and talk to the ladies, and the guys used to be in some corner. He never used to come to us, And one day the ladies, being very generous, they said, Swami, how about the men? And Swami says, why do you worry about the men, right? I'll take care of them. But in the context of giving Pada Namaskar, he said, the opportunity that I'm giving you to come and serve me in everyone is itself my Pada Namaskar. What a profound statement, right? Beyond the physical of Pada Namaskar, and I got a lot of Pada Namaskars, the physical, but that opportunity, if we kind of heed to that teaching that any opportunity to serve another human being or an animal, it doesn't matter, is a Pada Namaskar for us. I think we have to kind of live with that sentiment in our lives always. So I had this very wonderful opportunity. I'm a gastroenterologist by profession, and one of the Christmas, when I went for birthday actually, I was thinking, God, I'm a gastroenterologist. I wish I could do something GI, gastroenterology in Puttaparthi. And simultaneously, I didn't realize that Dr. Reddy, Dr. Narendra Reddy, as some of you know, or most of you know, was kind of thinking the same idea. So when I got back to the US, he calls me and he says, Hari, how about starting a GI unit in Puttaparthi? I told him, hey, exactly what I was thinking. So he went to see Swami a few months later, and Swami said, okay, give me information on the GI doctors who can come and work. So I created this file for Swami with 9 doctors that I could find in the Sai world. And Sai looked at each 9 of us, and he blessed each 9. And he said, go, then we'll start. Not only did he say that, he actually gave the start date for the GI. And here I am, I've never worked, I worked in the general hospital, but I've never worked in the super specialty hospital. So I had to work with everyone that I didn't know and come up with really establishing, of course, it's all Swami, I had the opportunity. Basically what I did was I kind of took pictures of where I work and I sent it to the engineers there. I said, this is exactly how I want the GI unit to look. They're pretty much kind of like a replica of the University of Michigan. They're replicated in Puttaparthi now. So the day comes, June 12th. This was a few days before Guru Purnima that year. And Swami was already given inauguration, start. So I picked a patient, one of the employees, and to be my first patient to scope and all that. He was excited. So that morning, we're all ready, to welcome Swami. You have no idea whether he's going to come or not, but we're all ready. And everything was, Swami's students were there, and one thing which was really in my mind was, I wish we could do some bhajans, But everything went so fast. Everyone is kind of, very overwhelming. And then finally, we get a word saying Swami's not coming. And they said, okay, he's not coming, period. He's not going to come at all today. That is where I think we always think about, we get influenced by what others say. You stick to your own conviction. You stick to your own heart. You still don't stop the work just because someone has said, Swami's not coming. We could have easily gone and did the scope on this guy who's been waiting all day. But I said, okay, let's do bhajans. We haven't done that. We went for lunch, came back, did bhajans. Believe it or not, literally not even 5 seconds after we finished the last bhajan, we get a phone call directly from Swami's residence saying that he's coming. It was just unbelievable. And then, so we are actually calling our leaders and saying, hey, Swami's coming. They didn't know yet. So they're like, no, he's not, because he didn't tell us. So this is another lesson to be learned, right? It's again, at the end of the day, it's us and Swami. It has nothing to do with anyone. So he did come, and that's the video, short video. I'll just show for a few minutes. It was very special because Swami had not come for almost 6 months to Puttaparthi, to the hospital actually that day.
Right there.
It was working. So the entire hospital literally kind of, took the afternoon off. So we were inside. I was inside actually. Here is Swami on the outside, coming. People are waiting in the hallway. So here he comes in, that's me. And I have brought one of my nurses from University of Michigan, John. He's never been outside the U.S. The first time he's gone outside the U.S., he's put the party. So initially we were showing him around. I had the blessing to show him around. And, he came to light the lamp. He had 5 of these wicks. And after he lit the first one, the boy, students, he started taking off, and Swami said, no, stop. He wanted to make sure he lit every one of them. And then he comes after that, and he just stares at his own photo. It felt like eternity being there, watching him stare at his own photo. Of course, he's blessing the unit. That's John. And so John gives him this flower, and Swami gives it back to him. So John is very perplexed. In the U.S., we don't do that, right? So I pulled John to the side and said, John, this is a blessing that he's actually giving back your flower. And so we didn't want to show Swami just a video. So I got the engineers to create this tube, which looks like a colon. I wanted to do a real colonoscopy that day. So that tube is the colon. I was showing him what we do with the colonoscopy, and I asked the engineers to make a hole and put a bud, a jasmine bud. So that's the polyp, the growth. We practiced 100 times that morning. Click, cut, and I wanted to pull that polyp out, show him that. And what happens? Swami is there watching intently. I could not get that cut. Nothing was happening. I was sweating. And here I am, the Lord in front of me. I'm intensely praying to God, Swami, please make this cut. And he's right there. I'm not looking at him at all. I'm like looking, thinking to myself, please make this cut. Because otherwise, he'll probably walk away, and I didn't want that to happen. And it was like, I don't know how many tries, and he was very patient, but I was very worried that he was going to leave. But finally, it cut, and this was a very large jasmine bud, right? I wanted to kind of show him that, and he was telling everyone what it is. Initially, there was only supposed to be 6 people in this room. I don't know where the 50 people came from, but anyway. So we finally got it, and we took this polyp growth out, and he says, he wants everyone to learn, right? Usually the polyps are tiny, 2-3 millimeters, and this was 2 centimeters or something. And he's asking me, is every polyp that big? I said, no, Swami, this is just kind of show and tell. So he was telling everyone. He knows everything, but and then we kind of took him to the other room. He makes so many jokes, in the other room, and I can speak Telugu, but I get so nervous to speak Telugu, especially in front of Swami or anyone. And here, we're showing him more advanced procedures, actually, what we do with stones and all that, and he was asking some funny questions. And as I'm seriously talking with Swami, right? I don't even see who is behind me. They're nudging me, hitting me in the back. I'm like, who is this hitting me in the back, interrupting my talk with Swami, right? He just wanted me to talk to Swami in Telugu. So I talked to him for a second, and then I went back to my English. You can actually stop the video there. It goes on. But Swami was so happy, and then he goes back after that. We also had an exhibition that day. He went to each one of them. He spent a lot of time with us. And then he goes back to the ashram, and he brought all the boys together. And he narrated the entire story of the GI unit experience to the boys. That they told them, this is what they do, this is, we had made all these pamphlets in Telugu, English. He took a whole bunch of them like a kid, and he showed them all of them. It was very, and then I stayed back for 3 months in Puttaparthi. It was really beautiful, because I still had to work. I couldn't, so what happened was just, I'll take 1 minute digression. Before I went, I had actually not quit, but almost quit my job in University of Michigan, and I went to Cleveland Clinic because they created this unbelievable position for me at Cleveland Clinic, my ex-boss. I went there, I wasn't very happy, but my boss kept saying, you're going to come back at the University of Michigan. So 6 months later, I decided I need to get back to University of Michigan. So I go to my boss, his name is Dr. Oang. I'm in his room alone, and I'm telling him, like, Oang, and this was just before the inauguration. I want to come back. He was very, very happy. By the way, I wasn't sure how much time, if at all, he would give me off. I need to take 3 to 6 months off. I'm going to come. I'm going to take 3 to 6 months off because I wanted to be here in Puttaparthi. He said, of course. Now, before he said that, he said, are you going to see Sathya Sai Baba? I've never talked to him about Sathya Sai Baba. I knew at that time Swami was in that room. It just gave me goosebumps. And what happened was a few months prior, I won the Dean's Award for Community Service. So in that, I always mention about the organization, about Swami, if I get an award. And I mentioned it. I never gave him that. I don't know if you read it. In that moment of time for him to ask, are you going to see Sathya Sai Baba? It was very profound, actually. So I go to Puttaparthi, right? I still have to work, work during the day, evening, and I didn't have Wi-Fi in the ashram. Those days, we didn't have any of these gadgets, right? So here I'm thinking, God, how am I going to do my work, right? And so the first day I get up, I get Wi-Fi access in some Govinda something, and I was very perplexed, and I went to the offices where the students are. They said, no, sir, we always take it off, other Wi-Fi for the night, and none of them are Govinda anyway. So it worked for the entire week, and then after a week or so, after the day after John came, it stopped working. I said, okay, fine, Swami gave me, and I go that day to the hospital. As I'm entering the hospital, Swami's student is running towards me and says, sir, we now have Wi-Fi access for you in your office. The timing, it was just unbelievable, actually. So I spent 3 months there. It was really blissful. A lot of things happened. People were just giving me things that Swami gave them over the years. Over the years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years prior, what Swami had given them, they were giving it to me. Just giving it to me. They said, this is for you. It was so beautiful. That's another day, another story. That 3 months for me. So, in the last few minutes, I'll quickly talk about a few things. We've been doing a lot of medical camps. In the last few years, we've been doing a lot of work in Africa. Some of you might know, in different countries. The next few slides, you can go through them. We went to Benin and Nigeria about 3.5 years ago, and the following year we did East Africa. These are the 3 countries where Swami was. As you know, it's only 3 countries outside India that he visited in Africa. Thousands and thousands of people, especially in Kenya. There was a doctor's strike that week, so none of the government doctors were working. So we being there was a huge blessing for them. It was really cool. Anywhere we could find a spot, we were actually having shop, which is our pharmacy, under the trees. Next slide. So much gratitude. A lot of people who have not seen for years, just a simple pair of glasses. We take things so much for granted. Simplicity. I always like to keep things simple. Nowadays I'm trying to read much, and that too because I've been working with young adults so much. They're always so thoughtful. They're always reading. So I'm like, okay, I got to read with these people, But to me, the simplest lines, love all serve all. That's it. That's all I need in my life. But I think it's still good to know the inner meaning, the significance, and I've been so blessed to be part of the YA space because I'm learning so much of that from them. Actually, I'm not teaching them much, and Sai schools, and here when I see these young kids do so much work at home, and here that's what they do. These kids, the 7th and 8th grade kids in Kenya, they actually cook for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 grades. Actually, they make lunch every single day. So here I am working with them. They were teaching me how to make chapatis. It was so cute. And then someone asked, who thinks Dr. Hari actually helps his wife at home? All the students raised their hand. Little did they know that I don't do much. So it was really cute. But they do everything. They do. The teachers are there to kind of assist them, but they do everything. Next slide. The younger girls, you probably recognize some of our younger girls from this region here who were with us. Again, they bring in life into everything, I think. So I'm so indebted to our younger girls. Next. So I want to end with this 2 slides. I'll be done very quickly. One of the things I've realized in life is that how do we stay in that moment of, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about how to be, how to do, how to see, but how do we be in that state all the time? That's my prayer to Swami. I know we get distracted a lot. So one day, I get a lot of dreams, and sometimes I don't know what the meaning is, but this day I was at a wedding reception. Twice in a wedding reception I had a dream. This was a wedding reception. I was telling one of the Sai aunties, I don't know why, I was still a young adult at that time. I said, I reached a state in my life that I want to give up my life for Swami. I just said it, I meant it, end of the story, right? That day I get a dream. In that dream, I'm in Kulwant Hall in Prasanthi Nilayam. I'm the only guy sitting on the veranda. The bhajans, thousands and thousands of people, the bhajans have started, and all I could hear was this, and Swami starts walking in through the crowds, comes straight to me, stands in front of me. He starts waving his hand. Vibhuti starts pouring on me. I'm completely entrenched with Vibhuti, and he leaves. When I got up, I was thinking, it was so powerful dream. I always think to this day, every time I think about that, how do we stay in that moment? How do we stay? I think we have the capacity to do it. Of course, the times are difficult sometimes, so whatever it is, I want to be in that kind of state all the time. I try to. It kind of really narrows, how we conduct ourselves. Hopefully, that leads us in that kind of straight path. So, and I think it's important we, as a community of Sai brothers and sisters, always work as a unit. And I see Sai centers across the country. Everyone, puts their heart and soul into it. I think it's so beautiful to see as part of, us, this organization. But here, when Swami came to the GI unit, right, he knows everything, right? But I wanted to tell him the importance of working in unity. So I found this quote that he wrote, obviously. I wanted to tell you how much people actually helped me and others when we were actually setting up the GI unit. And I'll end with this quote, and I was trying to kind of show it to him and, asking him to read it. Together, all together, the knowledge we have gained, we shall brighten and brighten till it enlightens all. Together, all together, we shall share as friends the fortune we have earned, the vision and thrill. Together, all together, we shall acclaim peace till we raise its praise into worshipful deeds. Together, all together, we shall intone the pranama. Om, 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 Om. We shall together sing. And thank you so much for this incredible honor for being here. And thank you.